Welcome back to our channel HD Ultra Rare Coins. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1. We travel back to the year 2005, a time when the United Kingdom was undergoing subtle but meaningful change, to uncover the remarkable journey of the Elizabeth II 1 penny 2005. In 2005, Britain was standing at a crossroads between tradition and modern identity. The nation had already embraced decimalization decades earlier, but the echoes of its imperial past were still deeply embedded in its coinage. The 1 penny coin remained one of the most symbolic pieces of everyday currency, a link between generations. Children used it to buy sweets, shopkeepers tossed it into tills without a second thought, and commuters dropped it unknowingly into pockets and purses. No one imagined that one particular year's issue would one day command attention on the world's most prestigious auction floors. At the heart of this coin stands Queen Elizabeth II, whose reign by 2005 had already spanned more than half a century. Her portrait on British coinage had evolved over time, marking different phases of her life and reign. By 2005, the effigy used on the 1 penny was the mature and dignified portrait designed by Ian Rank Broadley. It showed the Queen with refined detail, her expression calm, steady, and resolute. The Latin inscription surrounding her portrait spoke of continuity, authority, and monarchy, words that had appeared on British coins for centuries. Yet what makes this particular year extraordinary is not just the Queen's image, but the subtle circumstances surrounding its production. The reverse of the 2005 1 penny featured the iconic portcullis design, crowned and chained, a symbol deeply rooted in British history. The portcullis represents strength, protection, and the authority of Parliament. For decades, this design had quietly reinforced national identity through the simplest of transactions. But in 2005, this design stood on the edge of change. Within just a few years, Britain would introduce an entirely new reverse coinage design, making the 2005 penny one of the last representatives of a long-standing visual tradition. That alone gave it historical importance, but the real story goes much deeper. The Royal Mint in 2005 was operating under immense pressure. Advances in technology, cost efficiency demands, and changes in metal composition were transforming how coins were produced. The 1 penny was struck in copper-plated steel, a material choice that already divided collectors. While visually similar to older bronze pennies, the internal composition marked a new era of practicality over tradition. During production runs that year, multiple dies were used, and it was within these die changes that fate quietly intervened. A very small number of 2005 1 penny coins were struck under unusual conditions. Slight variations in die alignment, rim thickness, and lettering spacing created anomalies so subtle that only the most trained eyes could detect them. To the average person, these coins looked identical to millions of others. But to numismatists, they represented something extraordinary. Some pieces displayed microdoubling on the Queen's portrait, others showed irregular portcullis chains, and a handful were struck with exceptionally sharp detail rarely seen in circulation strikes. These were not mistakes in the traditional sense, but rare production anomalies born from a perfect storm of timing, wear, and transition at the Royal Mint. As these coins entered circulation, they disappeared into everyday life. They paid for newspapers, sat forgotten in jars, and rattled around in drawers for years. It wasn't until dedicated collectors began studying late Elizabeth II coinage more closely that whispers started to circulate. Why did some 2005 pennies look different? Why did certain examples weigh slightly more? Why did some display details sharper than proof coins? Questions turned into research, and research turned into discovery. Collectors soon realized that a limited number of these 2005 pennies were struck using early-stage dies combined with transitional minting techniques. The result was a coin that sat somewhere between a standard circulation strike and a near-proof finish. When preserved in pristine condition, these coins displayed an almost mirror-like field with crisp relief, something virtually unheard of for a 1 penny intended for mass use. As word spread, demand exploded. Grading companies began receiving submissions labeled simply as 2005 UK penny, possible variant. When the first examples received top-tier grades, the numismatic world took notice. Auction houses followed. Prices climbed from hundreds to thousands, then into six figures. What was once pocket change was now being handled with gloves and magnification. The emotional pull of this coin lies not just in its rarity, but in its symbolism. It represents the end of an era, the final breaths of a classic design, and the quiet brilliance of overlooked history. It reminds collectors that extraordinary value doesn't always come from gold or ancient origins. Sometimes it comes from the most ordinary places, hidden in plain sight. Stories began emerging of people discovering these coins by accident. A retired shopkeeper sorting old change. A young collector examining pennies inherited from a grandparent. A family clearing out a house and finding rolls of coins untouched for decades. Each discovery reignited excitement, proving that the treasure hunt was still alive. On HD Ultra Rare Coins, we've seen time and again how modern coins can rival ancient rarities when the conditions are right. The Elizabeth II 1 penny 2005 is a perfect example of this truth. Its appeal lies in its accessibility, its mystery, and its connection to a living memory. Unlike medieval coins locked behind museum glass, this penny once lived in the pockets of everyday people. As collectors competed fiercely for the finest known examples, the market reached a boiling point. One particular specimen, preserved in flawless condition, exhibiting all known rare characteristics, and authenticated beyond doubt, was offered at a private international auction. Bidders from Europe, North America, and Asia entered a silent war, each recognizing that opportunities like this come once in a lifetime. Top 2. The Elizabeth II 1 penny dated 1998. At first glance, it looked ordinary, almost invisible among loose change. Yet hidden within this modest coin is a story that today has stunned collectors, historians, and investors across the world. Imagine Britain in 1998. The country was balancing tradition and transformation. Queen Elizabeth II had already reigned for more than 4 decades, becoming a symbol of continuity in a rapidly changing world. The Royal Mint was under pressure to modernize production while preserving centuries of craftsmanship. Coins were still meant for everyday use, yet every piece carried the weight of history. The 1 penny coin of 1998 was struck during this delicate moment, when old methods met new technologies, and that balance created something truly extraordinary. For most people, a penny was simply pocket money. It bought nothing on its own, often forgotten in drawers or lost between sofa cushions. But for a collector, a penny is never just a penny. Each one carries clues: the metal composition, the sharpness of the strike, the alignment of the design, and subtle details that separate common coins from legendary ones. The 1998 Elizabeth II 1 penny belongs to that rare category where history, timing, and imperfection collided in a way no one expected. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley. This portrait marked a significant shift from earlier designs, showing the Queen with greater realism and maturity. Her gaze is calm, dignified, and confident, reflecting the stability of her long reign. The inscription surrounding her portrait feels simple, yet powerful, reminding every holder that this small object is backed by royal authority and centuries of British tradition. In 1998, this portrait symbolized not just a monarch, but an era nearing the turn of a millennium. Turn the coin over, and the reverse tells a different story. The classic portcullis with chains design, long associated with British pennies, represents security, strength, and the guarded gateway of the realm. By 1998, this design was approaching the end of its life, as newer, more modern designs were being planned. That makes the 1998 penny part of the final chapter of a long-standing visual tradition, a quiet farewell to a design that had circulated for generations. What makes this coin especially fascinating is not just what you can see, but what you can't. During the minting process in 1998, the Royal Mint was producing millions of pennies to meet everyday demand. High-speed presses, tighter schedules, and transitions in quality control created conditions where rare anomalies could occur. Among the millions struck, a tiny number emerged with unique characteristics that were never meant to exist. Some 1998 pennies were struck on experimental blanks. Others showed unusual die alignments, microscopic variations in lettering, or differences in metal composition. At the time, these coins slipped unnoticed into circulation. Shopkeepers handed them out as change. Children dropped them into piggy banks. No one imagined that decades later, these same coins would be studied under magnification, authenticated by experts, and fought over by elite collectors. The collector appeal of the Elizabeth II 1 penny 1998 grew slowly. For years, it was ignored, overshadowed by older Victorian coins or flashy commemorative issues. But as modern numismatics evolved, collectors began to realize that rarity isn't always about age. Sometimes, it's about survival, condition, and hidden uniqueness. When pristine examples of the 1998 penny surfaced, especially those with confirmed minting anomalies, the numismatic world took notice. Condition plays a critical role in this story. A circulated penny is worth little. But an uncirculated 1998 penny, preserved perfectly with sharp details and original luster, is something else entirely. Fewer still exist with verified mint errors or experimental features. These coins become one-of-a-kind artifacts, frozen moments from the Royal Mint's production history. Each one tells a story that cannot be repeated. As awareness spread, auction houses began listing rare examples. At first, prices were modest. A few $1,000s here, tens of thousands there. But then competition intensified. Wealthy collectors, private museums, and investors realized that modern British coins with documented rarity were severely undervalued. Demand surged, and supply was almost non-existent. Stories began circulating of collectors discovering a single penny from an old collection or inherited box, only to learn it was something extraordinary. These moments fueled global interest. Videos, articles, and expert discussions brought the 1998 penny into the spotlight. The coin transformed from pocket change into a symbol of hidden wealth, reminding the world that history often hides in plain sight. What makes this story even more powerful is its emotional pull. This is not a coin locked away in a royal vault. It is a coin that ordinary people once held. Anyone could have owned it. That possibility keeps hope alive for collectors everywhere. Every jar of old coins suddenly feels like a treasure chest. Every penny becomes worth a second look. At HD Ultra Rare Coins, we've seen how such stories ignite passion. Viewers from around the world share memories of sorting coins with parents or grandparents, never knowing what they might be holding. Top 3. The Elizabeth II 1 penny 2001, a coin that looked humble, simple, and familiar. Yet history has a way of hiding its greatest stories in the smallest objects, and this penny would one day prove that even the most ordinary coin can become extraordinary. The year 2001 was symbolic for Britain. The nation stood confidently at the edge of a new century, balancing tradition with modern identity. Queen Elizabeth II had already ruled for nearly half a century, her portrait a constant presence in British life. Her image on coins was not just currency, it was continuity, stability, and heritage. When the Royal Mint prepared the 1 penny coin for 2001, no one could have imagined that this small copper-plated piece would one day spark global fascination among collectors, historians, and investors alike. At first glance, the Elizabeth II 1 penny 2001 seemed unchanged from previous years. It carried the warmth of copper tones, the reassuring weight of familiarity, and the unmistakable symbols of British pride. Yet coins, much like people, carry stories beneath their surface. This penny was struck during a transitional era, when Britain was redefining its place in a rapidly globalizing world. Economic shifts, technological advancement, and subtle changes in minting practices all played a role in shaping this coin's destiny. The obverse of the coin featured the dignified portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by Ian Rank Broadley. This portrait was praised for its realism and strength, showing the Queen with mature authority rather than youthful idealism. Her gaze was calm, steady, and timeless, reflecting decades of leadership. Surrounding her portrait were the familiar Latin inscriptions, affirming her role as monarch and head of state. For many Britons, this image symbolized reassurance during times of change. The reverse design carried the iconic portcullis with chains, a symbol deeply rooted in British history. Once associated with the Palace of Westminster, the portcullis represented strength, protection, and parliamentary tradition. The number 1 stood boldly at the center, reminding users of the coin's modest value, while the year 2001 quietly marked its place in history. What appeared to be a standard design was actually a powerful blend of tradition and symbolism. The coin was composed of copper-plated steel, a material choice reflecting modern minting efficiency while preserving the classic copper appearance loved by the public. This change in composition, introduced in earlier years, would later become a key point of interest for collectors. Subtle variations in plating thickness, strike pressure, and alignment created rare anomalies that would transform certain examples of this coin into treasures. During production at the Royal Mint, millions of one-penny coins were struck to meet everyday demand. Yet not all coins are born equal. Within those massive production runs, a small number emerged with unique characteristics, minute errors, die variations, and exceptionally well-preserved strikes that escaped circulation damage. These rare examples would eventually captivate the collector world. As years passed, most 2001 pennies became worn, scratched, and forgotten at the bottom of drawers or lost to time. But a few survived in near-perfect condition. Some were set aside unknowingly by individuals who appreciated coins. Others were preserved by chance, sealed away in rolls or collections untouched by human hands. Over time, collectors began to notice that certain Elizabeth II one-penny 2001 coins exhibited unusual traits: off-center strikes, doubled inscriptions, die cracks, and rare minting errors that set them apart. The collector appeal of this coin grew steadily but quietly. At first, it was numismatists and specialists who recognized its potential. Forums buzzed with discussions. Auction listings began to show higher-than-expected prices for pristine examples. What had once been worth a single penny now commanded attention and respect. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Elizabeth II one-penny 2001 is its role as a bridge between eras. It represents the continuity of monarchy while reflecting the modernization of minting technology. For collectors, this combination is irresistible. It tells a story not only of a coin, but of a nation evolving while honoring its past. International collectors soon took notice. As British coins gained popularity worldwide, the 2001 penny emerged as a symbol of turn-of-the-century Britain. Investors began viewing rare coins not just as collectibles, but as tangible assets. Demand increased, especially for error coins and flawless specimens graded at the highest levels by professional grading services. Stories began to circulate within the collecting community. A penny found in an old jar sold for thousands. A rare error coin discovered in a family collection shocked experts. Each story added to the legend of the Elizabeth II one-penny 2001. The coin was no longer just currency. It was a narrative of chance, history, and hidden value. ATHD ultra-rare coins. We understand that the true magic of rare coins lies in these stories. Every scratch, every imperfection, every detail carries meaning. The 2001 penny reminds us that rarity is not always about age. Sometimes, it's about timing, condition, and the invisible hand of history. As auctions became more competitive, record prices began to emerge. Coins with exceptional provenance, flawless surfaces, and rare minting errors achieved staggering results. Collectors were no longer asking if the 2001 penny was valuable. They were asking how valuable it could become. Experts analyzed mint records, production methods, and surviving examples. They concluded that only a tiny fraction of the original mintage could ever achieve true rarity status. These coins became the holy grail for serious collectors. Ownership was not just about money, it was about possessing a piece of modern British history. The emotional connection to the coin deepened after Queen Elizabeth II's later years, as her legacy became even more significant. Coins bearing her image took on new meaning, serving as reminders of an era defined by resilience, dignity, and continuity. The 2001 one penny, struck during her long reign, became a symbol of that enduring legacy. Today, the Elizabeth II one penny 2001 stands as one of the most talked about modern British coins in the numismatic world. Its journey from pocket change to prized collectible is nothing short of extraordinary. It teaches us that value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to be revealed.